What if the most powerful anti-aging intervention isn't a cream, a procedure, or a pharmaceutical breakthrough, but something you eat quietly at the end of your day? For decades, we've been taught that wrinkles, skin thinning, and sagging are inevitable, the visible signatures of time passing across our biology. But what if that narrative is incomplete? What if aging, especially in the skin, is not just a passive process, but an active conversation between your cells and the environment you create for them? Tonight, I want to introduce you to a surprising player in that conversation, a humble nut, one that engages deeply with the very systems that govern how we repair, regenerate, and protect our skin while we sleep. Because here's something most people don't realize. Your skin does not age primarily during the day. It ages or regenerates at night. In the quiet hours of sleep, your body activates what we might call its biological maintenance program. DNA repair enzymes go to work. Collagen synthesis increases. Blood flow shifts. And your cells begin making decisions about whether to rebuild or to decline. Now imagine if a single food could amplify that regenerative state, not by magic, but by influencing key biological pathways: inflammation, oxidative stress, mitochondrial function, and even gene expression. This is not speculation. Researchers at institutions like Harvard, the NIH, and the University of Barcelona have been studying how certain compounds found in nuts, particularly polyphenols, omega fatty acids, and micronutrients, interact with the skin's aging mechanisms. And one nut in particular stands out. But before we reveal it, let's take a moment to ground ourselves in why this matters, not just cosmetically, but biologically. Your skin is not just a surface. It is your largest organ. It is a mirror of your internal health, your immune resilience, and even your metabolic age. So the question becomes, are we feeding our biology in a way that accelerates decline, or one that quietly programs renewal? Hey everyone, and welcome back. If you are passionate about natural health and evidence-based wellness, you've found your tribe. For those just joining our health journey, welcome. We are thrilled to have you here as we explore the fascinating intersection of ancient wisdom and modern science. Do not forget to hit that like button if this content resonates with you, and subscribe so you never miss our deep dives into natural health solutions. We would love to know where our amazing community spans. Drop your city or country in the comments below. Now let us uncover the nut that may be working on your skin while you sleep, rewriting what we thought was possible in aging. There is a quiet intelligence that awakens in your body each night. While you sleep, something extraordinary begins to unfold. A coordinated biological symphony where damaged proteins are broken down, DNA strands are repaired, and new cellular structures are built. Your skin in particular becomes highly active during these hours. In fact, studies published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology have shown that skin cell proliferation nearly doubles at night, especially between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. But here's the deeper truth. This repair system is not automatic. It is conditional. It depends on signals, biochemical cues that tell your body whether to invest energy in regeneration or to conserve resources and simply maintain. One of the most powerful of these signals is melatonin. Now, most people associate melatonin purely with sleep, but in the world of cellular biology, melatonin is far more than a sleep hormone. It is a master regulator of repair, a potent antioxidant, and a signaling molecule that tells your cells, now is the time to restore. And this brings us to something both elegant and unexpected. Among all nuts studied, one stands apart for its naturally high melatonin content: the walnut. Yes, walnut. Researchers from the University of Texas Health Science Center identified measurable levels of bioavailable melatonin in walnuts, meaning that, when consumed, they can actually increase circulating melatonin in the body. Not synthetically, not forcefully, but gently, in alignment with your natural rhythms. Imagine this. You eat a small handful of walnuts in the evening. Within hours, your body begins to absorb not just nutrients, but signals. Signals that subtly reinforce your circadian biology. And as you fall asleep, those signals begin to amplify your internal repair systems. But walnuts don't act alone through melatonin. They also provide magnesium, a mineral that plays a critical role in activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and repair mode of your body. Without sufficient magnesium, your system struggles to fully shift into deep, restorative sleep, the very state where skin regeneration is most active. So what we begin to see is not a single effect, but a convergence. Melatonin supports the timing of repair. Magnesium supports the depth of repair. Sleep becomes the container in which both can operate. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever woken up after a truly restful night and noticed your skin looks different? Slightly brighter, more even, more alive. That's not imagination. That is biology expressing itself. But here's where it becomes empowering. Because of something as simple as a nightly habit, a small handful of walnuts can enhance the very systems responsible for repair, then aging is no longer a passive experience. It becomes something we can influence gently, consistently, intelligently, and perhaps most importantly, naturally. As we move into the next part, we'll explore how this same nut doesn't just support repair, it actively participates in rebuilding the structural integrity of your skin. Because regeneration is not just about fixing damage, it's about restoring strength. If nighttime repair is the process of renewal, then collagen is the architecture that makes renewal visible. When we look at youthful skin, smooth, resilient, firm, what we're really seeing is the integrity of a living structure beneath the surface, a dynamic matrix composed primarily of collagen and elastin, constantly being broken down and rebuilt. But here's where most people misunderstand the biology. Collagen is not something you simply lose with age. It is something your body gradually becomes less efficient at rebuilding. And that distinction changes everything. Because if the problem is not just loss, but reduced synthesis, then the solution lies in reactivating the cells responsible for producing it. These cells are called fibroblasts, and you can think of them as the architects of your skin. Every strand of collagen, every fiber of structural support begins with their activity. Now imagine these fibroblasts as workers on a construction site. In youth, they are energetic, well supplied, and highly responsive. But over time, due to oxidative stress, inflammation, and nutrient depletion, they begin to slow down. Not because they've disappeared, but because their environment no longer supports optimal function. So the question becomes, how do we recreate an internal environment where these cells can thrive again? This is where the walnut reveals another layer of its power. Walnuts are one of the richest plant-based sources of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a type of omega-3 fatty acid. Now, omega-3s are often discussed in the context of heart health, but their role in skin biology is just as profound. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition has shown that omega-3 fatty acids can influence fibroblast activity, enhancing their ability to produce collagen while simultaneously reducing the enzymes that break it down, particularly matrix metalloproteinases, or NMPs. Think of it this way. Collagen production is the building process. Collagen breakdown is the demolition process. And aging accelerates demolition faster than construction. Omega-3s help restore balance, not by stopping breakdown entirely, but by ensuring that rebuilding keeps pace. But walnuts go even further. They contain copper, a trace mineral that plays a crucial role in cross-linking collagen fibers. Without sufficient copper, newly formed collagen lacks strength and stability, like scaffolding without proper joints. So now we begin to see a more complete picture. Omega-3s activate the builders, fibroblasts. Copper strengthens the structure. The balance between breakdown and synthesis is restored. And all of this can be influenced by a simple, consistent dietary input. Let me ask you something to reflect on. When we think about skincare, how often do we focus only on what we apply externally rather than what we provide internally? Because your skin is not built from the outside in, it is built from the inside out. Every cell, every fiber, every layer constructed from the nutrients you deliver through your bloodstream day after day. If this insight is reshaping how you think about skin aging, consider subscribing, because what we're uncovering here goes far beyond surface level solutions. And perhaps the most empowering realization is this: you don't need to overwhelm your biology with extremes. You simply need to give it the right signals consistently, because your body already knows how to build youthful skin. It's been doing it your entire life. The question is, are we still giving it the tools? Not all damage announces itself. Some of the most profound changes in your body happen quietly beneath perception, beneath pain, beneath awareness. And among these silent forces, one stands above the rest in shaping how we age: chronic, low-grade inflammation. It doesn't feel like the inflammation of an injury. There's no redness, no swelling you can point to. Instead, it operates like a background noise, subtle, persistent, and deeply influential. In the field of longevity research, we often refer to this as inflammaging, a term that reflects how sustained inflammatory signaling accelerates the biological aging process, including in your skin. Now here's the critical insight. Inflammation doesn't just damage cells directly, it alters the behavior of your cells. It tells your fibroblasts to slow down. It activates enzymes that degrade collagen. It disrupts the balance between repair and breakdown. And perhaps most importantly, it keeps your body in a defensive state, a state where regeneration becomes a lower priority. So even if you're sleeping well, even if you're providing nutrients, if inflammation is present, it's as though your body is constantly saying, now is not the time to rebuild. This is why addressing inflammation is not optional in any meaningful conversation about aging. It is foundational. Now let's return to the walnut, because its role here is particularly compelling. Walnuts are rich in polyphenols, bioactive compounds that act as signaling molecules within your body. These are not just antioxidants in the traditional sense. They are communicators, interacting with pathways that regulate inflammation at the genetic level. One of the most important of these pathways involves a protein complex known as NF-kappa B, nuclear factor kappa light chain enhancer of activated B cells. You can think of NF-kappa B as a master switch for inflammation. When activated, it triggers the expression of genes that produce inflammatory cytokines, molecules that amplify and sustain inflammatory responses. Now, studies published in journals like Nutrients and the Journal of Nutrition have shown that compounds found in walnuts, including elagitannins and other polyphenols, can inhibit the activation of NF-kappa B, effectively lowering the volume of that inflammatory signal. Not by shutting it off completely, because inflammation in the right context is essential, but by restoring balance. And balance is where regeneration becomes possible. Let's translate this into something tangible. Imagine your body as a city. Inflammation is like a constant state of emergency sirens running, resources diverted, systems on high alert. In that environment, construction slows down, maintenance is delayed, long-term projects are postponed. But when the emergency subsides, the city can rebuild. Roads are repaired, structures are reinforced, systems are optimized. Your skin operates in much the same way. When inflammation is reduced, collagen breakdown slows. Repair pathways become more active. Cellular communication improves. And over time, this shift becomes visible, not overnight, but progressively. Let me ask you something worth considering. How many of our daily habits, the foods we eat, the stress we carry, the sleep we sacrifice, are quietly sustaining inflammation without us realizing it? Because aging is rarely the result of one dramatic factor. It is the accumulation of subtle signals repeated over time. And the beauty of something like walnuts is not that they erase wrinkles in a single night, but that they change the trajectory of those signals. They nudge your biology gently, consistently, toward a state where repair is once again prioritized. And in that state, something remarkable begins to happen. Your body remembers how to renew itself. If collagen is the architecture of youth, then blood flow is the lifeline that maintains it. Every millimeter of your skin depends on an invisible infrastructure, a dense, intricate web of microscopic blood vessels called the microvascular network. These vessels are responsible for delivering oxygen, nutrients, immune signals, and repair molecules directly to your skin cells. And yet, this system is one of the first to decline with age. Not suddenly, but gradually, almost imperceptibly. The vessels lose flexibility. Blood flow becomes less efficient. Capillary density decreases. And as a result, the skin begins to show subtle signs of deprivation, dullness, slower healing, loss of vibrancy, and eventually structural thinning. So here's a profound idea from vascular biology. Before the skin visibly ages, it is first undernourished. This shifts our entire perspective. Aging skin is not just a surface issue. It is often a circulation issue. Now, in cardiovascular and metabolic research, one of the key players in vascular health is the endothelium, the thin layer of cells lining your blood vessels. Think of it as the intelligence layer of your circulation system. It regulates dilation, blood flow, and even inflammatory signaling. When endothelial function is strong, blood vessels respond dynamically. They expand when needed, delivering nutrients efficiently. When it weakens, circulation becomes sluggish and less responsive. This is where nutrients from whole foods, especially nuts, become biologically meaningful. The walnut has been studied extensively for its cardiovascular benefits, particularly in relation to endothelial health. Research from institutions like the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and findings published in Circulation suggest that regular walnut consumption is associated with improved endothelial function and increased nitric oxide availability, a molecule that helps blood vessels relax and expand. Why does this matter for your skin? Because nitric oxide is essentially a vascular communication signal. When it is present in healthy amounts, blood vessels respond with flexibility, improving microcirculation. And when microcirculation improves, something remarkable happens at the skin level. Oxygen delivery increases, nutrient absorption improves, waste removal becomes more efficient, cellular repair accelerates during sleep. Imagine your skin as a garden. Even the richest soil cannot produce vibrant growth without proper irrigation. Blood flow is that irrigation system. And walnuts, through their combination of omega-3 fatty acids, L-arginine precursors, and antioxidant compounds, help support that internal irrigation network. But let's make this even more tangible. Have you ever noticed how your skin can look slightly more alive after a good night of sleep, hydration, or even a walk outdoors? That's circulation at work. Now imagine if that state wasn't occasional, but consistently supported from within. This is where small daily inputs become powerful over time, not because they create dramatic overnight transformation, but because they reinforce the systems that determine how your skin behaves every single day. And here is the deeper scientific truth. Skin aging is not only about damage accumulation, it is also about delivery failure, the gradual reduction in the body's ability to deliver what cells need to function optimally. So when we support vascular health, we are not just improving appearance, we are restoring communication between systems. Let me ask you something reflective. If every cell in your skin depends on a constant stream of oxygen and nutrients, what does it mean for aging when that stream begins to slow? And more importantly, what would happen if we could restore even a fraction of that youthful flow? Because in biology, small improvements in circulation often produce disproportionately large improvements in function. And that is where consistency matters more than intensity. A handful of nutrient-dense foods repeated over time can subtly reshape how efficiently your body distributes life itself. Not in theory, but in physiology. There is a form of aging that does not wait for birthdays. It happens every second in every cell as a natural consequence of life itself. It is called oxidative stress. At its core, oxidative stress is not an enemy. It is a byproduct of metabolism, the process by which your cells convert oxygen and nutrients into energy. But during this process, unstable molecules called free radicals are generated. These molecules are missing an electron, and in their instability, they seek balance by stealing electrons from nearby structures, proteins, lipids, even DNA. Over time, this creates microscopic damage that accumulates quietly. In your skin, this damage is especially visible because it affects two critical structural proteins: collagen, which provides firmness, elastin, which provides flexibility. When these proteins are repeatedly damaged faster than they can be repaired, the visible signs of aging emerge. Fine lines, loss of elasticity, thinning skin texture. But here is the most important scientific insight. Oxidative stress is not only about damage, it is about imbalance. Your body already has an antioxidant defense system designed to neutralize free radicals. Molecules like glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and catalase act as your internal repair shields. The problem arises when modern lifestyle factors, chronic stress, poor sleep, environmental toxins, processed foods, increase free radical production beyond the capacity of your natural defenses. So the equation shifts. More damage, less repair capacity, faster visible aging. Now let's bring this back to nutrition, and specifically to the walnut. Walnuts are uniquely rich in polyphenols and vitamin E, two classes of antioxidants that operate in complementary ways. Vitamin E is lipid soluble, meaning it integrates directly into cell membranes, the very structures most vulnerable to oxidative attack. It acts like a protective barrier, preventing the chain reaction of lipid oxidation. Polyphenols, on the other hand, act more like signal modulators. They don't just neutralize free radicals directly. They influence the expression and activity of your own antioxidant enzymes. This dual action is what makes whole foods so powerful in biology. They don't override your system. They support its intelligence. Let's simplify this with an analogy. Imagine your skin cells as a bustling city again. Free radicals are like sparks flying from constant industrial activity. A few sparks are manageable, but when the system is overloaded, those sparks start small fires across the city. Antioxidants are the fire response teams. If they are well equipped and well distributed, they extinguish fires quickly, preventing structural damage. If they are overwhelmed or undersupplied, fires spread slowly, degrading the infrastructure over time. This is what oxidative stress truly represents, a mismatch between damage and defense. Now here is where walnuts become particularly interesting, because unlike isolated antioxidant supplements, walnuts provide a network of protective compounds that work synergistically. They don't just add one type of defense, they reinforce multiple layers of protection simultaneously. And this matters deeply for aging skin. Because collagen breakdown is not caused by one factor alone, it is the result of repeated micro damage over time. So even modest reductions in oxidative stress, when sustained, can meaningfully shift the trajectory of skin aging. Let me ask you something to reflect on. If aging is largely the accumulation of microscopic damage that we cannot see in real time, what would it mean to consistently reduce that damage every single day? Not dramatically, not instantly, but gradually, like adjusting the flow of a river at its source. Because that is how biology actually changes. Not through sudden transformation, but through repeated signals, shaping outcomes over time. And perhaps the most empowering realization is this: your skin is not passively aging. It is actively responding, moment by moment, to the balance between damage and repair inside your body. And you have more influence over that balance than most people realize. Up until this point, we've been speaking about skin aging as something shaped by repair, circulation, inflammation, and oxidative balance. But there is a deeper layer one that modern science is only beginning to fully appreciate. Because your biology is not only reacting to your environment, it is reading it. And more importantly, it is writing itself in response to it.